Father Will Straten. Welcome to Power and Witness podcast. You're going to be on Father Mitch's show tonight, EWTN Live, but I wanted to grab you because you are doing great work at Texas A&M, College Station, Texas, and you just give me the numbers, about 75,000 students there, and you have a St. Mary's Catholic Center, and I know, like, for a long time, I remember when I first came here to EWTN, I just remember you always heard about Texas A&M, their Catholic Student Center, and the great work being done there. Can you tell us, like, what is going on there now? You have a big church on campus, St. Mary's, and what are some of the things you're doing there?
Yes, St. Mary's we're about one block off campus. We have about 11 acres, and we just built a new church dedicated in 2023, seats close to 1,500. And then we have a student center on adjacent property, and then, of course, parking lot. The historic church is still there as well that we use for adoration and whatnot. Yeah.
And
Our mission, I guess always good to start with the mission, is forming apostles of the church in the world. So you could say that we see our mission is basically to, you could say, pick up where mom and dad left off, right? So this idea, image of providing a home, a space, a place for the students who are coming to be able to encounter God, to form a relationship with Him, and then of course take that relationship with them when they graduate, right? So one of the previous pastors that was there would say that we're a place of hellos and goodbyes, right? So being a campus ministry program, you're always kind of welcoming people in, and as students graduate, you're kind of always saying goodbye or sending them out. So you could say we have the students for 4 years, and so again, it's as much as it is the programs that we have, as much as it is the Holy Spirit. As much as it is of just giving them a place to put into practice either what they received from their parents, and so. It's kind of neat to see students coming there and ready to get plugged in, and I've heard about St. Mary's. Again, other people who are encountered by our students, encountered by the focused missionaries, by others who invite them, their roommates, of course, to come to Mass at St. Mary's and encounter Jesus there and want to learn about the church and grow in their faith.
You know, it kind of strikes me. On one level, it's kind of sad, and I can understand, like a pastor there working, you might not have as deep as roots as might not know people for a decade or something, but it seems very evangelical, right? Jesus lived with the apostles 3 years, right? And they're sent
exactly.
off, right? And, there is something I was just talking to a guest we just had in Life from the Rock. Well, I was looking at an old show, Jason Simon, and he was talking about, sometimes people are intimidated to be like a missionary disciple, to evangelize. But he was saying, if you're just a little bit farther along than the guy you're talking to, right? You don't have to have everything perfect in your own life, but you're working on stuff or whatever. But to give what you have. And I kind of like that. You kind of, okay, you're sending off, you're going to go, you have jobs, families, and apply these principles and share this relationship you've developed wherever you go now. Isn't that kind of a thrilling thing, if you look at it that way. But so you have Focus there. How big is Focus? How many missionaries do you have there?
Yeah, we have 9 focused missionaries there at St. Mary's, and they focus in on, of course, Greek outreach. They focus out to our athletes. They also focus in on the Corps cadets there at the university.
Okay.
And
that's a big group, right? The cadets.
It's a pretty. Yeah, to the 75,000 students that are there, there's over 2,000 students that are part of the Corps Cadets. Yeah. So it is a good number.
And do you have, I'm wondering, maybe practically, let me ask you this, to provide a home for student comes, he's Catholic, wants to grow in the faith and everything, what are some practical things you do to foster a fellowship or community?
Yeah, great question. So a few years ago, we started a program called John 15, right? So the 15th chapter Gospel of John is the vine and the branches. So this image of again, being connected, or as Jesus says, right, those who are connected to the vine have life, those who are not will, wither and, be tossed into the fire. So this idea of wanting to get the new students who come to get plugged in basically into small group ministry. And so we'll have John 15, usually meets on Thursday nights with a talk, about a 20-30 minute talk that's either given by one of our, usually by one of our campus ministers or one of our in-staff. And then afterwards we have the group leaders are sophomores. And so we have, they break into groups of 8 and they basically discuss and talk about, breakout discussion questions from the talks. And so that kind of meets throughout their freshman year. So kind of getting them plugged in. Again, trying to help them to have an encounter with God, to start that relationship. And then, again, helping to form them, and then encouraging them, right, to share what they have received. So in the midst of that, I mean, everything else, right, of course, the center of everything has to be the Eucharist, has to be Mass, worship, whatnot. So we have the Masses on the weekend. And again, being in a student campus is great to see the students actually being involved in the ministry. So it's student-led choirs, student who are altar servers, Eucharistic ministers, those are the lectors, ushers. And we'll have a few permanent parishioners here and there help out, but it's students serving students, right? And so kind of centers in on that. And also 2 daily Mass. And then, of course, we have adoration throughout the week as well, Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on Friday from 8 to 12. And then daily Mass throughout the week. And we'll get 250, 300 people come to daily Mass. And again, it's a great community, right? It's always neat afterwards for students stay around and talk for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Some of them, so building those relationships, those friendships, some of them might go catch a meal, some of them might have a different ministry or something afterwards. Right. So, and then of course studying, which they are students, so we have plenty of places to study there in the student center too.
That's the place to practice virtue, right?
That's right, yeah.
And you mentioned the staff. How big is the staff there?
So we have the pastoral team is made up of, I think we have about 8 or 9, you could say, staff. We have 5 apostles of interior life, ABI sisters that are there that mostly do spiritual direction, but also help us basically teaching some of the OCIA classes and walking with some of the students in these student groups. Okay, and of course we also have the 9 focused missionaries that I mentioned as well.
Are you the only priest?
There's 2 of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we also have a couple deacons. We also are 3 deacons, and then we also have the operation side of things. And so the operation, there's about another 8 or 10 there, and that's again like communication, office staff, the finance, development. Of course, all of the students don't have a lot of money, so we have a nice development office that helps us to reach out to alumni to support our ministry.
Yeah, and were you part of the construction of the new church? Was that under you?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity, I say, to spend the money or to build the church, right? So I'd say I was the third one with the baton. Bishop David Condola, when he was there as the pastor, really I kind of had the vision and kind of set in motion the building of the new church. Father Brian McMaster followed me, and he probably raised more than half of the money and also came up with the design of the church. And then when I got there in the fall of 2020, they were at 75% drawings, so most of everything was chosen. So we kind of made a few more final decisions, raised a little bit more money, and we were able to break ground about 8 months after I got there.
Wow.
And then 2 years after that, we dedicated the church.
And you have stained glass and statues and
yeah, stained glass statues. So our St. Mary's, the patroness or the name of Mary is Our Lady of the Rosary. So inside the church, we have kind of a band that goes around of the 20 mysteries of the Rosary. On the top of the dome is Our Lady of Victory, Our Lady of the Rosary. They're on top. So very much Marian themed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, saints that are kind of connected to either devotions to Mary, to students or to young people, or just kind of popular devotions, who the students kind of pray to or seek intercession for. So yeah.
And was that a learning curve for you? I mean, to finish a construction project that I've heard it really exhausts some priests, to do that.
It definitely can. I will say 2 or 3 blessings that I had. Number one was we had built a couple years before I got there. We added on to the backside of our student center, and so I had 2 of my employees that were there. One was the admin, and the other one was in charge of facilities, and both of them were very much part of that building expansion project. And sometimes people might build a house and then you get all this experience and you never build another one. Well, these guys were part of this, and then 2 years later, they were able to use a lot of the knowledge they received from that expansion of the student center to kind of apply to the building of the new church. So they were very helpful to me. Because I can remember the call when I got the call from the bishop asking me to go to St. Mary's, and I said, "Well, Bishop, I've never built a church." And he goes, "You'll learn." So they'll teach you. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sure they will." So it was good. We had a great building committee. A lot of people that were excited about the new church. Had been hearing about wanting, to build that new church for 15 or 20 years. So there was a lot of people that were excited behind it. So it definitely was taxing, but I didn't feel as though it was just myself doing it all by myself. So definitely had a lot of help and support.
And the John 15 group that you mentioned, the small groups, that Focus is another thing? They're doing their thing, or is John 15 linked with Focus, or how does that work?
That's a great question. So it is separate than with Focus. So we could say at St. Mary's Catholic Center, we desired to desire might not be the right word to use, but we seek to take care of the students who show up. So the students who show up, sign up, who want to be part of ministry at St. Mary's. And so the campus ministry team that we have really tries to kind of reach out to those students. So we do small group to John 15, who are the freshmen I mentioned. We have home groups that were small groups for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And then we have a group, Pescadores, in Spanish, for our Spanish-speaking students as well. And they're all pretty much the same, all small group ministry to kind of those certain groups. So very similar to what Focus does, but what we desire to do, teaming or working with Focus, is instead of them working with the students that show up, we're like, okay, there's 5,000 students that show up on Sunday, but there's another 70,000 students over there that aren't doing anything. And so I think Focus has worked well with us when they kind of have a targeted group that they're able to focus in on. So when you have 2 missionaries going to the athletes, when you have 2 missionaries going to the Corps Cadets, when you have 4 missionaries, 5 missionaries going to the Greek and doing outreach to them, it's been when they kind of have their areas and their groups that they're reaching out to, it works very well.
Wow. Yeah, I thought it was. It always rings in my head what Pope Francis said, and I don't know if it was Evangelizing, but he talked about we just can't wait for people to come to us,
Sure.
And they really, because sometimes with so few priests, you get that cycle of just maintaining. And I'm thinking too, how do you do the confessional work of all these? Because there's 2 priests. How do you do that?
Yeah, by the grace of God, right? We do have confessions 6 days a week. We have one of the retired priests comes and that's in the area, helps us out on Tuesday. We have a priest that comes in from San Antonio on Monday, and it's one of our days off, and so he helps with spiritual direction and helps out with confessions in the afternoon. And then we have some of the local priests in the area will come on Thursday and Friday and help us. So some days we have 2 priests, some days 3, sometimes 4. So usually we'll have at least 2 priests. But
that's great.
Sometimes we finish the line, sometimes we don't. But we try.
And you mentioned adoration in the old church. Tell us about that?
Yeah, so we have Eucharistic adoration Monday through Thursday, whenever school is in session, in the fall and the spring, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then on Fridays from 8 to 12. And so again, this is, I would say, just providing or giving a place for students to kind of put into practice what they've been learning, right? So maybe hearing talks about daily prayer and having a relationship with Jesus and spending some time with him. Right? We hear Mary and Martha, right? Mary has chosen the better part, building that relationship with the Lord. And so, yeah, Adoration Chapel is a space where they can come and, put into practice what they've been learning. Maybe definitely pray, definitely read a few books, but encountering the Lord. And being able to see other students that are also praying as well. Also, too, on staff, I encourage the staff to spend 30 minutes in the Adoration Chapel each day as well. So throughout the day, we'll see the staff in there. The focused missionaries are usually in there from 8:30 to 9:30. Apostles Interior Life that I mentioned, they're usually there from 8 to 9, praying in the chapel as well. I try to go most days, spend an hour there as well. So, the staff kind of modeling, but then also to students being able to invite other students to come to pray in the Adoration Chapel.
I'm sorry, did you say, was it 24 hours?
No, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Oh, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10, and then on Friday it is 8 to 12.
I was just looking at pictures here of the St. Mary's. That's a big church.
Yes.
That's people listening ought to go look it up. It's pretty impressive structure there and beautiful inside. And wow, it's a college chapel, so to speak.
Yeah, the desire, of course, on college campuses, well, anyway, anywhere you go, right, there are buildings. And so desiring to build a building that looks like a church.
Yeah.
And one that people can be uplifted, right, into heaven when they go in.
And tell us about your OCIA. Like, how big a group did you have last year, say? Or this year, what do you have?
Sure. Yeah. So with OCIA, we, I guess just to kind of speak a little bit into what we do, we have a group that starts, of course, in September and finishes at the Easter Vigil, which is what most normal parishes do. Classes meet on Tuesday evenings. And we kind of recognize, again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that we have the students aren't necessarily there for very long, right? Being there for 4 years. OCIA usually is a year process, or at least 9 months. And so we have another class that starts in January that finishes up in usually around November. And so an opportunity to kind of strike while the iron is hot, so get the students to have different times that they can start. We also have a class that starts in the summer that kind of repeats what was in the spring and that finishes in November. So I guess just to say for this year, the group that started in January, we had 30 that were baptized. We had about 40 that made their profession of faith. And then we also put baptized Catholics who want to complete their sacraments initiation in the OCIA class as well, because most of them are uncatechized. Right. So we had 70 that were confirmed by the Vicar General on Sunday, this past Sunday at the 11 o'clock Mass. So the class that started in January, we had about 140 people that finished this semester. And then the class that started this semester that will finish the Easter of 2026, we have about 260 people that showed up. Wow. So about 60 of those would be to be baptized. We'll probably have about 70, 80, maybe 90 that would be making their profession of faith. And then the rest, about 120, 130, would be completing their sacraments of initiation, baptized Catholics.
But 260 this year.
Yes. So you could say, January was 140, and then the class this September was 260. So
that seems like a great number.
It's a huge number, yes. Of course, the year that I came in 2020, I think I baptized at the Easter Vigil probably around 10 to 12. And so it seems like, each semester we've been increasing. So that was, again, 12. And then again, this last Friday, we baptized 30. And then it would double, which is crazy, by the Easter Vigil. If all of them stay in, it would be around 60 people to be baptized.
And, on one level, it seemed like at least when I went to college, it's like, I was fasting. I was away from home, and it was like, okay, you've got all this world's wide open to you, and you get more freedom and all this. I mean, religion wasn't primary thing
Sure.
on my
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
and then plus you have a lot of bad stuff going on in any Catholic or any college, right? You got promiscuity and parties and drugs and everything. But having said that myself, I mean, I had a conversion experience at the end of college, and so what do you think about that? I guess it's always amazing to me. You get like a young person today with so much media thrown at them that's not giving them the gospel message. You got video games that'll just suck up their life. You got, all our A-list celebrity actors and stuff making these movies that aren't helping us in our faith largely, and just a growing secular. How does this happen?
That's an excellent question, and I can say that, right? I'm still trying to figure it out as well. And again, some people from time to time do ask, what's the secret sauce? What are you doing over there at St. Mary's and in College Station? And I can say to you, I mean, first off, it's just being in tune with what the Spirit is doing, right? So just being aware, right? Awareness of whom the Lord is bringing. I mean, students teaching students, I think that's been a big part of our ministry. So not just per se the staff or missionaries or whatnot, but also developing, helping students to lead. So leading retreats, leading the Bible studies. So really them leading the ministries. Again, a big one, but also a simple one is, right, just teaching what the church teaches. I think another big part is again, we talked about adoration already, but it is the Eucharist. I'm always amazed with having conversations with some of the students who are in the OCIA program and coming in. It's like, okay, what brought you here? And it's always interesting. It's like, well, I went on this retreat and they did this thing called adoration, and I never heard of it. I never went to it, and I was really moved or drawn during that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that hour that we were in that adoration. And so I kind of recognized there was something here. Mm-hmm. And again, I would like to think these are some of the things that other people are also talking about as well, but it just seems to be people looking for something that's stable. Seems like people looking for something that's real or authentic. And so with a lot of things in the world that are not necessarily very fake or just very quick or not very stable, people looking for something that's real, that's stable, that's been around for a while. And also too, I think a lot of it, some of it has after people are looking for fulfillment. People are looking for something that is satisfying. And so maybe seeing their friends or others who seem to be happy or fulfilled or finding peace kind of also are drawn into that. And then again, it's like, we've heard it with a lot of other things. It starts small and it continues to grow. It's neat. I don't know if I mentioned it here in the podcast, but I graduated there at A&M in 2002, and there are 15 or 20 students that are there that I went to school with their parents. And so it's almost like I'm an uncle, or I see a lot of these kids. And so it's, again, this sense of it already kind of generational, right? Their parents were there, they went to St. Mary's, they grew in their faith, and they want their children to hopefully have some of that similar experience. And definitely want them to go A&M to get a good education, but even more so, they want them to be exposed to the Catholic church that is there.
I like that point about the Eucharist, because in John 6, he talks about no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I'll raise him up on the last day. So John 6, he's given us this great bread of life discourse, teaching on the Eucharist and talking about the Father drawing people to him. And another one of our priests pointed that out to me too. About I was amazed that some Protestants were going to a mass, and they just. I said, what's drawing? I mean, we don't have great music. We don't have great preaching. What is it that's drawing you? And he said, the Eucharist, the Eucharist. Yeah. And I guess I feel like the noise of the world is so deafening, but maybe there's kind of like a bottoming out here that people want more. And And just too, like about youth, like having the students in leadership roles and leading retreats. We had a postulate with us for a little while, and I was lamenting. I was talking to a group of young students, but I just felt like I had aged out. I feel like they kind of weren't really listening, and and he told me, he said, "Oh, yeah, it happens pretty quick." He said, "Even, this guy was, I forgot, he was 25 or 24." He said, "I pretty much aged out of talking to high school students, that it is, I don't know what that is exactly, but I guess, I don't know if it's like a kind of a crowd effect, if other young people are doing it, it opens them up to doing it. But yeah, I guess now that you mention that, those different aspects, yeah, there's a lot of great elements there to draw a young person, other young people doing this, other young people growing in their faith, and the Eucharist, the sacraments being the teachings, all being there. And do you hear that? Like you mentioned the stability, the church, because I've heard that in different articles I've read about these growing OCIA groups across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that, and more men are like becoming Catholic than women, and young adult men. And usually you always think of women as more spiritual, quicker to faith. But the articles I've read said they're drawn to the tradition, the stability of it. That's what you're hearing from people?
I would definitely say so, yes. Yeah, tradition, faith, again, something that is real,
Mm-hmm.
is stable. Um, and again, a father, I think there is a father that's meant to be kind of the center of a family, the stability, the care, the love of a father. And so men are, again, kind of really drawn to God. Again, greatness, right? We're called to greatness. I think there is, in a world where you can do a lot of things, but then you still see Jesus, a man who sacrificially loves. I mean, lays down his life for others.
Yeah.
Seems to be, yeah, very attractive. And we do have a lot of young men who are
Yeah.
coming and who want to be encouraged. They want to be challenged. They want to, again, they want to be part of something that's authentic and I think real.
Yeah. And I would imagine, just the fellowship too, to be able to.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't leave that one out. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've noticed it. I always say this at World Youth Days. It's amazing how you can feel this great unity amidst all these different cultures and languages, but we're believing the same thing. We want the same thing to whatever degrees, but you can feel this great unity in these big groups. If we cherish the same thing, and also the one-on-one. That's the other theme I hear you mentioning with focus and John 15. And even my own experience, I had this conversion experience in the college, and it was a one-on-one thing. It was just me and him, this older grad student telling me about his faith. And that seems to be most effective, doesn't it? I mean, we could answer the questions for somebody, and they could see your witness.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of great things on social media. There's a lot of great videos you can do. There's a tons of things, and I think to an extent they definitely do work and are helpful. But there's nothing that takes away the encounter, the invitation, the kind of walking with. And again, as you stated, it's sharing your story, and which is usually a whole lot easier than maybe some people think. A lot of times people are afraid to talk about their faith. But if you're living your faith and it's part of who you are, then you should talk about it as something that is important to you, and sharing it again with the people that are around you. So starting with your roommates, starting with your friends, starting with the people that live in your dorm or your apartment complex, or inviting somebody to come to church with you. So taking that kind of small steps of those invitations can have a huge impact. Because as I said earlier, you're right, there are people who do show up, who do come, but there's a lot of other people who are probably very very little excuses, right, or very just simple things that will keep them from coming, and just need an invitation or a light or encouragement from others.
And do you find, like, in your preaching and teaching, are there certain themes that really resonate with the students that they show a particular interest in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think themes, at least that I try to speak in on, that seem to speak to the students, are definitely a sense of conversion, or like we're a work in progress. Mm-hmm. So this kind of realization that the Lord is not done with us. I think in a sense of awareness or openness, kind of our own brokenness, but also that God has made it for greatness or something good. So how can we be open to that metanoia, right? That mm-hmm. conversion process that's happened in our life. I think the second big one, again, examples or witnesses. Mm-hmm. So I think this generation really wants witnesses, people who are actually authentic and living the faith. So I find a lot of times talking about the saints, talking about their lives, how they were kind of just like us, or were just like us, and so kind of helping the people to see that the jump, I guess you could say, from to be a saint, to be holy, to be set apart, really isn't as big as it kind of looks, mm-hmm. or sometimes we think. Also, too, I think this generation just desires to know maybe the question why, or what is Jesus saying, or what is going on in that parable, or what is happening? Why is this important? And why was Jesus talking about this? Why is he saying this to us? And so I find in the homilies, at times of teaching or just explaining, again, what Jesus was saying, and again, not trying to, well, anyway, allowing the Scripture to do what it's supposed to do, right? Allowing the Word of God to do what it's supposed to do. Why was Jesus speaking these things? Why was he saying these things? And then encouraging students to, listen to the Holy Spirit in the midst of this and continue to let the Scripture speak to you.
I kind of learned that early on in priesthood and deacon. It's like people, my experience has been that people, when I'm preaching and maybe droning on, when I start to say what the Scripture actually means, or what and it's like I can feel them perk up. It's like, okay, somebody's finally going to explain this to me, or whatever. And in fact, I remember at a gas station, I was talking to someone that had left the Catholic Church. They went to a local mega church. I said, "Why? What drew you?" She said, well, they were talking about what the Scriptures mean, and she found some kind of explanation there, that mm-hmm. drew them. But and this, I like that theme too. That to present a spirituality that, okay, we're all a work in progress, and we're working on things, and I think maybe sometimes in our social media drenched culture, so much is image, and you see snapshots of a person's life, and it looks great, right?
Sure.
You don't see them when they're anxious or depressed or whatever, Yeah. And I think it, probably a lot of other factors too, but I think perfectionism and that has really taken hold in our culture, like performance. You got to get it right, and mm-hmm. it's a kind of a really achievement-oriented culture. What have you done? And just to realize that, hey, I'm going to be working on this stuff the rest of my life, And the saints, I just heard a fascinating thing too about. We just interviewed Christine Wohlhar. She wrote a book on Pier Giorgio, and she said something that drew her to him was that he was modern in the sense that he wasn't having the stigmata or all these mystical visions or incredible fastings or whatever that seems just totally unapproachable. He was doing work with the poor and social justice and praying and all that, and it was like stuff that everyone could do. Right, mm-hmm. And even I heard Michelle Dupont, something she had written. In fact, she was touched by Pier Giorgio too, but she was saying that we're not called to imitate everything about the saints. Right, we have our own path, right, mm-hmm. and our own gifts and things, and how He's going to work with us. But I could see how that it would appeal to young people, to go to those sources.
It really is. And as you're speaking, I think something that's resonated or speaking in my mind as I'm listening to you is there's also an encouragement that we find of helping the students to own their faith, right? So there's this kind of an image of adulthood, right? So you're 18 years old and, you're going to start learning how to hopefully wash your clothes or how to cook or, how to make your schedule and study and to try to be successful. And so too, maybe before it was your parents that were telling you to study at home, right? It was your parents saying, okay, you got a test tomorrow. It's your parents, hey, we got to go to church. It's the parents, and so I think for sometimes it was your faith might have belonged to your parents. Your faith might have belonged to your youth minister. Your faith might belong in some sense to your older siblings or mentors or people whom you see. Which is good, but at some point in time, you have to be here because you want to be here, right? Mm-hmm. And so kind of encourage the students to say, yeah, you need to start somewhere. So again, taking the examples that you've heard before, you've got your own Bible now, you've, again, kind of, as I was saying earlier, providing a home or a space for them to actually own their faith, put it into practice. Also too is, again, not everyone wants to be successful, but people, they do want to have that sense of that ownership, right. That this can be mine. And of course, there's plenty of other examples of the other direction, right? Where some people are, because I'm out of mom and dad's house, no longer have to do this and whatnot. And there's always going to meet stories where, some people, it's funny, I'll see them, but, they're freshmen, the first semester, the freshman year, and they're there all the time, and then, they're gone. And I, never see them. And then it's always interesting, right on the junior, senior year, for whatever happens, they're back, and so maybe they wanted to go try other things, or maybe, for whatever reason, they maybe weren't there for the right reasons at the beginning. And and they kind of have had a conversion or had hey, maybe this is important. There is something here. I've recognized there was something missing in my life over these last few years. And it's awesome to, again, to confession and to be able to, people coming back after, a few years. And again, not there because mom brought them or dad brought them or it was Advent or Lent, but it was like, there is, I've recognized there have been things that are not of God, and I want that relationship with him to continue,
And we'll end soon. I know you got to get ready for another show, but is there like a common struggle you see among young people today that maybe you feel like you keep coming back to try to, it shows up a lot in ministry?
Yeah, I mean, you touched a little bit on it earlier. There is that sense of that perfectionism, or I have to do this kind of a right way. I think another is just a lot of the young people are anxiousness. There's just a lot of anxiousness. So whether it is to succeed or to be successful, or a lot of it having to do it kind of myself. Job, marriage, figure out vocation. So it's interesting. I mean, it's a neat place there at St. Mary's. I think a lot of college campuses where people feel comfortable to discern, but there seems to a lot of pressure on trying to figure it out or solve it, instead of just an openness to the Lord, him leading them, him guiding them. I think sometimes too, it's there's just tons of voices out there, right? Just a lot of distractions, a lot of options of things to do during the week, on the weekend and whatnot. So
And do you find like having to address stuff like maybe like a counselor, maybe would give a presentation, or just like some fundamental mental health issues? Has that been part of the ministry? Or I imagine the school has some services with that.
The school definitely has some services. I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about campus ministers and staff. We do have a full-time counselor who's on staff, and she has 2 interns, and so they are available to do kind of one-on-one counseling. Our counselor also from time to time will give talks. We started this last year. Small groups for students who are struggling with habitual sexual sin. So groups for men, groups for women, and then also groups who are same-sex attracted but also want to live out their Catholic faith. And so those groups meet throughout the week as well. And so yes, being able to provide counseling. I think the good thing is our counselor, she definitely sets up one-on-ones, meets with them once a week or once every 2 weeks or however often she's able to meet with them. And of course, her schedule can fill up pretty often, but She also kind of sets up 30 minutes, maybe 5 or 10 times a week, where she can meet with somebody who just who signs up for counseling, and there might not be a spot available, but she'll meet with them and just kind of assess and listen. And so sometimes it's I don't want to say an easy fix, but sometimes it's just having somebody listen to them who is a counselor and to say, hey, these are 2 or 3 things that you can do. Or she might say, well, yeah, you really do need a counselor. I'm going to put you on the list, or here's 2 or 3 other names here in town. But I think for a lot of it is just people being heard, people recognizing, again, some people do have trauma that they need to work through, but maybe others too, just a sense of a confidence. They need some confidence, or growing in virtue, or just prayer, or you're going in the right direction, keep going.
I like that too, about just giving a presentation and maybe some fundamentals of that might speak into some of the things that.
Yeah, she gave a talk on anxiety, and a great talk. And then it's you kind of sort of similar to this podcast, right? You have it, and you can put it up on the website, and then you can have people. You encounter somebody who's struggling with anxiousness, anxiety, and hey, listen to this. See if you get any fruit comes from this. Yeah.
All right, last question. And I don't often ask this, but what drew you to the priesthood and your vocation?
Wow, that is a great question. What drew me? I think what drew me was the opportunity to be able to kind of serve and walk with others. So not so much per se to fix or solve, but to walk with. So kind of the journey, so that the sense of accompaniment, walking with others. I think a second thing, especially with the diocesan priesthood, was just being able to kind of be immersed in people's lives, and so not 2 days look alike, right? You don't necessarily know the phone calls that are coming in, but to be able to be just a sense of, again, I just spoke a lot about stability, but just being able to be a presence or a reminder that there is a God, there is hope, there is something that's beyond this, to be able to listen to people and give them a place to talk, and to kind of share. And I've always, again, amazed here with the Holy Spirit works through that. Sometimes people solve their own problems in just sharing or talking what's going on in their life. But I think of just that sense of that service, sense of I think just being able to help people to have hope. And there was 3 or 4 priests, 2 priests in my home parish when I was growing up, and then 2 priests when I was in campus ministry, that were just they were just very, very pastoral. They were alive. They were happy, and I was really, really drawn to that. They were normal people, again, cooperating with God's grace, and it was very, again, attractive or intriguing. I remember once going on a discernment talk. You kind of sign up for these discernment, when I was in college, discernment dinners or discernment talks or visits or different things, with the hopes of sometimes, is God going to tell me? Am I going to get the phone
burning
call
bush.
or the burning bush? Right, yeah. And I went, and the guy was talking, and in some sense, a way, it kind of sort of was that, but the priest was speaking about how he had, when he was in college, kind of felt drawn to medicine. Like he wanted to be a doctor, he wanted to be a nurse, he wanted to help people heal. And as he was going through, as he was sharing with us kind of his discernment, he was like, I want to serve people. A priest serves people. Well, I want to help people heal, and I want them to live healthy lives and to take care of themselves. A priest walks with people. He helps them heal. He wants them to live good lives and turn away from sin. And then he was like, I want to teach people. I want to teach and work with. A priest teaches people. So kind of recognizing, again, I guess for me, just what are the desires of your own heart, yearnings that, I was wanting to apply those in, maybe professions in the world. And then I kind of recognized from his kind of witness that those particular things that were important to me that I was wanting to apply in the world were applicable in the life of a priest, diocesan priest.
Absolutely. Last question. What are some of the challenges? I would imagine you sound so busy and so many things going on. Is that kind of the biggest challenge? Is just maybe the pace of it all or the demand of it all?
Some of it is my own perfectionism, right? Some of it is, I wish I could remember people's names, but that's okay. I sometimes ask people 5 or 6 times what your name is. Some of it is just, I think, also too, kind of feeding into the lie that I have to solve or have the answer or fix everything, right? So that's sometimes the struggles. Maybe sometimes too coming up with my own way. But also too, kind of the busyness of it. The priest that I took over from, he said, "Hey, the ministry there it's rolling pretty good. Just be careful not to get ran over by it." And I was like, "Hey,
That's a good one.
that's great advice. That's really good advice." So I think of just kind of seeing myself as being part of the ministry there, and helping to attentive to the Holy Spirit and we're being led and where we're going. But recognizing that I just can't. I can't.
Do it all.
I can't do everything. Yeah.
Well, Father Will, thank you so much for talking with us, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.